Hello, welcome friends. Hi. In the last module, I think we have talked about the HTTP protocol, how to use it from a Java, how to write a Java application which uses HTTP protocol. Now, another place or another thing which is again something which is used on top of the HTTP protocol, some component which works from within Java or so it's that famous component which actually brought Java into the limelight. Oh, what is that component? Oh, it's the applet. So in this module, we are going to be talking about applet. Fine. Yes, it's about HTTP. It's used on top of HTTP protocol, in the sense that yes, it's used within a browser. Applet is used within a browser. Let's see how so in this module I think we should be able to look at how applet is used within a browser, how the browser manages the applet. Fine. So applet is not, what is an applet? Let's start with that. Fine. So let's start with our what is an applet here. So what is an applet? A few more things, a few points before I start proceed further here. This module assumes that you have some basic knowledge about GUI in Java. You're aware of using the AWT, some part of the AWT API, at least the basics of the AWT and the event handling part. Okay. In this module, we are only going to be covering about how applet works within a browser. Fine. The actual relation between the browser and the applet, what it is. Fine. How someone could effectively use an applet in some kind of a application which is a web-based application. Fine, how it works. Another concept which will be introduced here is browser. We'll like to look at browser as a container for the applet. And the concept of container is very important in most of the things related to the Java APIs. Fine, the Java technology, most of the places uses the concept of a container. So fine, you'll find, for example, you'll find containers in case of when we look at the servlet part. If someone is looking at EJBs, or there again, everywhere you'll come across the concept of a container. So yes, here we are interested in looking at that concept of container, where we'll look at browser as a container for the applet. So let's begin this discussion with, yes, what is an applet? Yes, what is an applet? Applet is what is an applet? Oh, if I look at the is-a relation, yes, applet is it inherits from what? So if I look at the class inheritance in the API, I find applet is a panel. It inherits from panel. Panel is a container. Container is a component. Fine. So it's just nothing but a panel. Applet is simply a panel. Panel which we use in AWT. Fine. For GUI applications, which is simply a container. Fine, a plain container where other kind of components could be added, other GUI components could be added to create your own good user interfaces. Fine, so you could design your user interfaces in a panel. Same way, what is applet? Applet is a panel. So one aspect about applet is a panel. It has a GUI aspect. Here, in this module, we are not looking at that GUI aspect. We are looking at this module, the aspect which we are looking at is how the panel is going to be used inside a browser, how the browser is managing it, what is the relation between the browser and this GUI component called applet. Fine. Okay, so let's proceed further now. Fine. So what is, yes, now we can redefine applet. Applet is a panel which gets embedded inside a browser as part of a web page. Fine. It's coming inside the browser. Fine. The object of applet is going to be created within the browser and used within a browser. Oh, how does it happen? Let's see this. Okay, so do we write a main method here? Who is going to be creating the applet object? As I mentioned, it's the browser who has to manage it. So who will be creating it? The browser. Oh, do we write a main method then? No, we don't need to write a main method. It's not an application like all other applications. Here, rather, you should think that browser is having some kind of a Java application, which is the one which is going to be creating this object. So look at browser as some kind of a Java application. And what is Applet then? Oh, Applet is simply a component which the application developer creates to be used inside the browser, to be used by this application called the browser. Look at browser as the main application, the one which has a main method. Fine. And the application developer's role here is simply to design some user interface, fine, and keep that component, make it available, which can then be used by the browser as part of a web page. Yes, the browser is, what is the browser doing? Oh, let's see how we are using the browser. Before I proceed, one more point. Let's look at, we will be talking about 3 different roles here. Oh, there are 3 different roles. Fine. One is the role of the browser developer. Fine. We have a browser vendor. Fine. It is because the main has been written by whom? The application, the Java application. Who is writing it? It's a browser vendor who has to write that application. It's a browser vendor who will be the one who will be calling the constructor of the applet, creating the object of the applet, and then using them within the browser. So that main part is actually under the control of the browser. So we got actually 3 different roles. One is, yes, we understood, is a browser vendor. He has some role to play. Another role is the role of the applet developer. He is a Java developer who develops a component which is a applet. Fine. It's a Java user interface, the GUI component which he is creating. Fine. But to be used by the browser. A third part, the third role is the role of the web page designer. Oh, someone designs the whole user, the GUI page, the web page, entire web page. The applet is simply one component used within the web page. See, the web page designer, he designs a web page. When he designs a web page, he puts various things. He puts images. Just like he is putting an image, he is also able to include or embed an applet in his web page. And that applet is a Java component. So we got 3 different roles being played by different people, which are used, and all these roles are useful in a web application. Fine. The web application, yes, the browser is our browser is the main client, the client mainly used by the end user. The applet developer, yes, he's created some user interface component, and the web page designer who designed the overall page to include the applet within it. Okay, so fine, that we should be aware of. Yes, these are 3 different persons who could be, these could be 3 different persons. Fine. Anyway, browser vendor is always a separate version, separate person here. Fine. Okay, so now looking at, yes, what exactly goes on. If we look at the usage point of view, how does a end user start using the browser? Oh, he enters a URL, right? When he enters a URL, what exactly goes on? We understand a request will be sent. So the end user is entering a URL which corresponds to an HTML file on a server. So when he enters this URL, what exactly happens? A request goes to the server. On the server, what happens? The server is looking up and finding there's an HTML page corresponding